It started the way things usually do, subtle, almost harmless. A look, a pause, a laugh that was just a beat too long. I used to be the kind of guy who didn't overthink anything. I trusted my wife, trusted our life. We had a system, a rhythm. But now I wonder if that was just the illusion before the fall. The night everything cracked open was a company celebration thrown by Haley's boss, Jordan. I'd met him a handful of times before, always came off as the type who wore confidence like cologne. Slick, charming, way too familiar. The kind of man who talked with his hands and touched your arm too often when he laughed at his own jokes. The party was at his private residence. This modern two-story villa tucked beside a lake about 40 minutes outside of Austin. When we pulled up, the place looked like something off a magazine cover. Glass walls reflecting the water, strings of Edison bulbs stretching over a manicured backyard, soft jazz humming under the sounds of conversation and clinking glasses. I remember glancing over at Haley as we parked. She was adjusting her lipstick in the mirror, her expression focused but distracted. She looked good, too good for a casual work party. Tight navy dress, hair curled in that soft wave she usually saved for weddings or our anniversaries. She didn't notice me watching her, or maybe she did and just didn't care. "You ready?" she asked, not looking at me. "Yeah," I said. "You?" She just nodded and opened her door. Inside, everyone was playing their parts. Jordan's team was mostly young professionals. Polished, loud, trying hard to be impressive. There were catered hors d'oeuvres, laughter at full volume, people smiling like their jobs depended on it. Maybe they did. I stuck close to Haley at first, trying to blend in. But she kept drifting away, one conversation, then another. I wasn't mad about it. It made sense. These were her co-workers. I was just the plus one, the husband. At one point, I found myself standing alone near the bar, holding a sweating glass of something citrusy. I watched her across the garden, laughing with a group of colleagues. Jordan was there, too, standing just a little too close, as usual. He leaned in, said something in her ear. She laughed, again too loud. Her hand went to her neck, brushing her hair back the way she does when she's nervous. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was reading too much into it. I didn't want to be that guy, the suspicious one, the one who creates drama from nothing. But then came the toast. It was around twilight. The sky was that soft burnt orange that Texas does better than anywhere. People gathered near the pool, drinks in hand. Someone passed out champagne. Haley stood at the center of the group, radiant and easy in her skin, like she belonged there more than anywhere. Jordan clinked his glass with a spoon and raised it high. "To the best damn team I've ever worked with," he started. "We pulled off something impossible, and if anyone deserves credit, it's me." Laughter erupted. Someone shouted, "Of course it is." Jordan smirked, soaking in the attention. "No, seriously. I'm the one who made it all happen. In every sense." He paused just long enough for people to wonder if he was done. Then he turned slowly to look at Haley, held his gaze on her like no one else was around. "And not just the project." The words hung in the air like a dropped glass. There was a moment of confused silence, half a beat, and then a few awkward chuckles. A couple of Haley's co-workers looked at each other. Someone made a weird throat-clearing sound. Nobody said anything directly, but I saw what I saw. Haley went pale, just for a flash, like someone had yanked the floor out from under her and she had to catch her balance fast. Then she laughed, loud and fake and painfully rehearsed. "Jordan's always like that," she said quickly, brushing it off like a bug on her shoulder. "Don't mind him. He's a total chaos gremlin." More laughter. Easier this time. The moment was already sliding away. Haley lifted her glass and said something about the team's upcoming working vacation to Napa. She winked at someone and cracked a joke. Everyone followed her lead like sheep, grateful for the distraction. But I couldn't laugh, couldn't move honestly, because right as she turned away from Jordan, she did something small, something quick. She placed her hand over her stomach, just lightly, like it was instinct, like it meant something. It hit me in the chest. I didn't know why, not then, but I felt it, like a punch without the sound. Something was off. Way off. My gut didn't twist like that for nothing. The rest of the party was a blur. I tried to act normal, but inside I was scanning everything. Her tone, her movements, how she didn't look me in the eye when she introduced me to someone. She avoided standing near Jordan the rest of the evening. Too obviously, I thought. She barely touched her drink. Said she had a headache and wanted to head home early. But then she got pulled into more conversations, more photos, more laughter. We left late. Too late. And the car ride home was silent. At one point I asked, "So? Jordan's always like that?" She didn't even flinch. "Yeah, total flirt. You know how it is." "I don't, actually." She smiled without warmth. "Don't make it a thing. It was a joke." Didn't sound like one. She looked out the window. "Then maybe that's your problem." That was the last thing she said to me that night. We got home just before midnight. She got out of the car without waiting. Walked ahead of me up the stairs to our apartment like she couldn't stand the weight of my presence behind her. I didn't follow immediately. I sat in the car a while, listening to the engine ticking as it cooled. When I finally went up, the lights were off. Her stuff was gone. Not everything. Not even most of it. Just enough to say, "I'm not coming back tonight." No note on the counter. No text. No call. Just a scrap of lined paper taped to the door, written in her handwriting. "The keys are with the neighbor upstairs." No explanation. No time frame. Not even a passive-aggressive emoji. I stood there holding the note, rereading it like maybe there was something hidden between the lines. Like if I looked long enough, it would become a map back to the way things used to be. But all I saw was what was there, and what wasn't. After that night, after the party, the toast, the note on the door, time started moving differently. Not slower. Just heavier. Like gravity had changed. I didn't call her. Didn't text. I sat on the edge of our bed staring at the closet. Her side half empty. Hangers swinging like they missed her. I told myself she'd be back in a day. Maybe two. Maybe there was some explanation, some weird miscommunication, some reason I wasn't seeing the full picture yet. But she didn't come back. And I couldn't sleep. So instead I thought. And the more I thought, the more I remembered. The strange how your brain keeps receipts even when your heart wants to shred them. Like how Haley had been coming home later for the past 3 months. It had started with small stuff. "Oh, the client called a last-minute meeting." Or, "We're behind on deliverables, so Jordan asked me to stay." First, I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was driven. She was passionate about her work. I used to brag about her to my friends. How lucky I was to be with someone so focused, so admired by her team. But then came the weekends. She started going on off-site retreats. Quick overnights with her team, she said. Strategy sessions in cabins or airbnbs rented by the company. She claimed Jordan believed in bonding through nature. No laptops, just whiteboards and hiking boots. Except Haley hated hiking. I remembered asking if spouses were ever invited. She waved it off with a laugh. "You'd hate it. Trust me, it's work. Just work." She always came back with new things, a branded hoodie, a water bottle, a joke about some inside team ritual I didn't understand. And there was always something different about her, too. A new perfume I couldn't name. Lipstick I hadn't seen before. One time, she returned with a tan line that didn't match any Texas weather. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband, the insecure one, the guy who doesn't support her career. But now that I was sitting in a half-empty apartment with a knot in my gut and her keys in someone else's hands, I started replaying all of it. Every moment, every brush off, every half-smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. One memory hit me like a kick to the ribs. A few weeks before the party, she'd said she was attending a leadership seminar. One of those personal development things, hosted by Jordan's firm at some off-site location. She'd been so excited, practically glowing. Said it was invite only and that Jordan himself had put her name forward. "Just 2 days," she'd said, tossing clothes into a weekend bag. "I'll be back before you know it." She left early Friday morning. But Saturday night, while scrolling on my phone, I'd seen something that didn't sit right. Jordan's wife had posted a photo from Mexico. a solo trip. The caption was something like, "Healing Weekend. Just me and the ocean. No tags. Just a picture of her on a beach towel with a book and a coconut drink." It didn't click right away. But then I thought, if Jordan's wife was in Mexico that weekend, then where was Jordan? And where was Haley, really? When she came home Sunday evening, she looked different, lighter, not tired like someone who'd spent 48 hours workshopping deliverables. She walked in with a fridge magnet that said Santa Fe, not the city she told me she was in. Said someone brought it back from another trip. Then she kissed me on the cheek, not the lips, and called me sweetheart, like it was scripted. That night, I lay next to her, eyes open in the dark, listening to the rhythm of her breathing. It used to calm me. Now it made my chest tight, like I didn't know the person next to me anymore. Like I'd become just another piece of furniture in her life. Something she had once picked out and now barely noticed. Another time, I tried bringing her coffee while she was working late in the dining room. She flinched when I touched her shoulder. Literally jumped. Like I was a stranger. She smiled and said she was just deep in thought. But when she reached for the mug, she didn't touch me. Didn't even look at me. Just said, "Thanks," and turned back to her screen. Later that night, I watched her carry her phone into the bathroom. She didn't used to do that. Back when we were normal, she'd leave it charging on the nightstand. Now it was always with her. Always face down. Always locked with a new password I hadn't asked about. Once, it vibrated while she was in the shower. I didn't even move toward it. But when she came out, she dried her hands fast and grabbed it like it might explode. She asked me, half joking, half not, "You weren't trying to read my texts, were you?" I said no. She smiled and said, "Good." It didn't feel like a good. There was also this one night, small, maybe irrelevant, but it stuck with me. I was cleaning the kitchen, and I noticed a receipt in the trash. It was for 2 cocktails and a charcuterie board from a rooftop bar in the city. She told me she had stayed in the office until late that night. The timestamp on the receipt was 9:47 p.m. I confronted her about it. Not directly, just casually said, "Hey, you ever been to that rooftop place downtown?" She didn't miss a beat. "Yeah, I went with some coworkers a while back. For lunch." That was her answer. But I had the receipt in my pocket. She'd lied, and I let her. Because when you love someone, you build walls around your doubts and decorate them with trust, until the bricks start to crack. And that's exactly what happened after that party. After the note on the door. After that awful toast. The next morning, I stood at our kitchen counter, staring at my reflection in the microwave door. Unshaven. Unblinking. I kept thinking, I need to know. I need to see it. Not for closure. Not even for revenge. Just to prove to myself that I wasn't crazy. That I hadn't imagined the last 6 months of distance. That something real had shifted, and I hadn't just made it all up in my head. That's when I remembered something. A year ago, Haley had given me her work login credentials so I could print boarding passes for a company trip we took together. I never deleted the email. I never deleted anything. I pulled up my inbox and searched her name. There it was. Still saved. Same login, same password. I stared at it for a while. Felt like crossing a line. But then I thought, she already crossed it first. So I logged in. Her company used a cloud system for internal files and communications. I wasn't interested in emails, not yet. I didn't want assumptions. I wanted something irrefutable. That's when I saw the folder labeled Internal Resources. Inside was a subfolder, Security Footage, Conference Rooms. My chest tightened. I clicked through, heart pounding like a drum in my throat. There were dozens of files, each one labeled by date and room number. I knew which day I wanted to check first, the Tuesday before the party. She'd come home late, said she had a strategy meeting with Jordan. No big deal, just a debrief. I found the footage. It started with an empty conference room. Just chairs, a projector, a few stray cables on the table. At 6:04 p.m. Jordan walked in, alone, sat down, looked at his phone, waited. At 6:10 Haley entered. No laptop, no folders, just her phone in one hand, coffee in the other. She smiled at him. He stood up. They hugged. Not a work hug. She sat next to him, close. Too close. No papers. No screen sharing. Just talking. Then laughing. At 6:18 he touched her face. Brushed her cheek with his fingers. She didn't flinch. She leaned into it. At 6:20 they kissed. Not like people doing something wrong. Not frantic or afraid of being caught. It was slow. Familiar. Like something they'd done a dozen times. I closed the laptop. I didn't move. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just sat there, staring at nothing, while the truth wrapped itself around my ribs and squeezed. They say when you see the truth, really see it, something inside you breaks in silence. No shatter. No explosion. Just a slow, irreversible crack. That's what happened the moment I closed the laptop. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, staring at the closed lid like it could undo what I'd seen if I kept it shut long enough. But the images were already seared into me, like a scar forming in real time. Jordan, reaching for her face. Haley, tilting toward him like it was muscle memory. That kiss, slow, confident, practiced. Not stolen. Not impulsive. Rehearsed. That's what hit the hardest. This wasn't some clumsy mistake in a moment of weakness. This wasn't we got too close or I didn't mean for it to happen. No. What I saw on that screen was routine. Familiarity. It was something built on time, trust, and secrecy. And it had been going on long enough for them to forget the cameras existed. For the rest of that day, I couldn't focus on anything. I wandered through the apartment like a ghost. Dishes in the sink. Her sweater still hanging off the back of the chair. Toothbrush in the cup next to mine. All these little signs of her life still tangled with mine, even though her body wasn't there. I didn't cry. I wanted to. God, I wanted to break down, to rage, to fall apart like in the movies. But the only thing I felt was this cold, steady hum beneath my skin, like my emotions had gone into hiding and left behind a vacuum. That night I didn't sleep. I sat on the living room floor, knees pulled up, back against the wall. Lights off, just staring out the window at nothing. And sometime around 3 a.m., I decided the truth wasn't enough. She needed to see it too. She needed to feel it. Not through confrontation, not through tears or accusations, but through her own lies, played back to her in perfect clarity. So I made a plan. Haley had mentioned she wanted to host a dinner. Something casual, she said in a text 2 days before the party. Just a few coworkers, maybe Jordan and some others, a little celebration for the project milestone. At the time, I hadn't responded. I was still in that numb post-note haze. But now I saw it as an opportunity. I told her sure, go ahead. I'd help set up. I'd cook, even. She texted back a thumbs up and a smiley face. Smiley face. I almost laughed. The day of the dinner, I spent the morning rewatching the footage. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. I needed to know exactly when to cue it, how to clip it, how to package it so that no one in that room could deny what they were seeing. I edited 2 short clips. The first, the toast. Jordan's, I'm the one who made it all happen line, followed by, and not just the project, and Haley's shaky, overcompensating laugh. I had taken someone's phone recording of the party, synced it with clearer audio from a video someone posted online, and cleaned it up as best I could. The second, the office footage. I trimmed it down to a precise 90 seconds, just enough to show their meeting, their closeness, the kiss. No sound. Didn't need it. The images said more than words ever could. I transferred both files to my phone, then to a Bluetooth speaker we used for movie nights. It had a video projection feature, not high-end, but decent enough to cast onto the blank dining room wall. By 6:30 p.m., the apartment was spotless. Table set, candles lit, wine breathing on the counter. I even wore a button-down shirt and combed my hair. I looked the part of a supportive husband. When Haley arrived, she kissed me on the cheek and smiled like nothing was wrong. "Smells amazing," she said, glancing at the dishes I'd laid out. "You didn't have to go all out." I shrugged. Felt like the occasion deserved it. She didn't catch the weight in my voice. She was too busy fussing with napkins and lighting more candles. One by one, people started arriving. Laughter filled the room. Coats were tossed onto the couch. Compliments on the food were made, wine was poured, and for a little while it almost felt like a normal night. Like I was watching my life from the outside. Jordan showed up last. Of course he did. He walked in like he owned the air in the room, arms wide, voice loud. "This place looks fantastic," he said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Did you do all this?" I smiled. "Yeah, thought it'd be nice." He grinned and winked at Haley. She looked away. We sat down to eat. Haley toasted the team, thanked everyone for their work, raised her glass to Jordan for his leadership. I raised mine too. My hand didn't shake. Dessert came out. More laughter. People started leaning back in their chairs, loosening ties, wiping crumbs from their mouths. That's when I stood up. "I want to play something," I said casually, picking up the remote. Haley looked confused. "Play something?" "Just a little surprise," I said. "A thank you to the team. A memory." Jordan chuckled. "What is this, a slideshow?" "In a way." I hit play. First, the toast. The room fell quiet as Jordan's voice filled the air. "If anyone deserves the credit, it's me. I'm the one who made it all happen in every sense." Laughter. Then the pause. And not just the project. I watched the color drain from Haley's face in real time. Her smile dropped. Her eyes widened. A few people laughed nervously. One guy looked down at his plate. The video ended. I waited a beat. Then I played the second clip. Haley's eyes snapped to me. "Don't," she said softly, but I already had. There it was. Jordan entering the conference room. Haley following. The closeness. The laugh. The touch. The kiss. Silence. No one moved. The only sound was the quiet hum of the speaker and someone's fork clinking against a plate. I hit stop. The screen went black. I looked at Jordan first. He didn't look smug anymore. He didn't look like anything. Just a man who knew he'd been caught, and in front of the very people he needed to impress. Then I looked at Haley. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shouting. She was frozen, pale. Her mouth slightly open like she wanted to speak, but didn't know what words would save her. I didn't say a thing. Didn't need to. One by one, the guests excused themselves. Quickly. Quietly. A few avoided eye contact. One of the women whispered something to Haley, but she didn't respond. Jordan was the first to vanish. Out the back gate. Haley stood in the middle of the room like a statue. I cleared the dishes in silence. She didn't move. I poured myself a drink and sat at the table. Still, she stood. Eventually, I looked up at her. "You didn't even flinch," I said. "That's how I knew." She opened her mouth, closed it, then walked to the door without a word. Didn't take her coat. Didn't take her bag. Just left. And I didn't stop her. I just sat there, surrounded by empty glasses and the smell of burnt sugar, letting the silence do what words never could. She didn't come back that night. I waited, but I didn't really expect her to. Haley wasn't the kind to run back into a burning house. She was the kind to light the match, stand back, and watch from the safety of the driveway. The house smelled like wine and sugar and fake laughter. Empty plates still sat on the table like corpses from a dinner no one would ever forget. I didn't clean up. I just sat there, in the thick silence that follows after a truth's been set loose. There was no yelling, no arguing, just a room stripped bare by something more final than a fight. Couldn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., I went outside and sat on the front steps. The sky was dark enough to swallow me whole, and the air was thick with that wet Texas stillness that sticks to your skin. I closed my eyes and tried to remember the last time I felt at peace with her. A year ago? 2? Longer? The next morning, I woke up on the couch, stiff-necked and cold. I half expected to hear the click of the door, her keys, her shoes on the floor, the normalcy of routine trying to reset itself. But nothing happened. Instead, my phone buzzed. A single message. "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know what I'd say if I did. What do you say to someone who burned the foundation down and asks if you want to rebuild on the ashes? By noon, I found myself doing what I had sworn I wouldn't. Opening our wedding album. I sat cross-legged on the floor and flipped through the pages like they belonged to strangers. Her smile. My arm around her waist. That look she gave me when we cut the cake. Eyes closed. Laughing. I felt nothing. Not anger. Not longing. Just a weird, distant curiosity. Like I was studying a history I'd never lived through. By the time the sun started to set, I heard the front door unlock. I didn't get up. She walked in slowly, like she wasn't sure if the floor still belonged to her. She didn't say anything right away. Just stood there, holding a small overnight bag and a sweater I'd seen 100 times. She looked tired, older somehow, like the weight of being caught had added years overnight. "Is it okay if I sit?" she asked, her voice so quiet I almost didn't catch it. I gestured to the other end of the couch. She sat. Silence stretched between us, heavy and dense, like we were trying to breathe underwater. "I don't know where to start," she said eventually. "Try the beginning," I said, eyes still on the wedding album. She looked down. "It wasn't supposed to happen." I said nothing. "I mean it," she continued. "I didn't go looking for it. I wasn't trying to ruin anything." "Then you failed by accident," I said, voice flat. She swallowed hard. "It started small. Long meetings, inside jokes, coffee runs. He noticed things, asked how I was, said I deserved more recognition, that I was exceptional. And I wasn't," I said. She flinched. "That's not what I meant. But that's what you felt." She didn't answer. "You kissed him in a conference room, on camera. And that wasn't the first time, was it?" "No," she whispered. I nodded. The final nail in a coffin I didn't want but had already built. "There were weekends," I said, almost to myself. "Retreats. Team-building trips." She closed her eyes. "Was he there? Every time?" She nodded. "And the lie about Santa Fe? The fridge magnet?" "That was from him," she admitted. "He bought it at the airport. Told me to say a coworker gave it to me." My stomach turned. I didn't even want to know how many layers of lies I'd swallowed. "And the baby?" I asked. Her eyes flew to mine. "I saw you touch your stomach. That night. After the toast." She went pale. "That was just—" She paused. "I didn't know then." I felt my throat close. "Is it his?" "I don't know," she said, shaking her head. "I honestly don't. But it's not mine." She looked like she wanted to lie. I could see it. The wheels turning. But then she broke. "No," she said. "It's not." The words didn't hit like a slap. They landed like gravity. Just a weight I'd already been carrying, finally confirmed. "I made a doctor's appointment," I said, "just to be sure. Before you got here." She nodded slowly. "I'll go." We sat there in silence again. Not awkward silence. Not hostile. Just nothingness. "You didn't even try to stop me?" I said after a while. "When I played the video, what could I have said?" She whispered. "You had all the evidence. It wasn't like I could spin it." "You've spun worse," I muttered. She didn't argue. "I kept wondering if you'd beg, if you'd cry, if you'd say something that would make it feel less like a car crash and more like a mistake." She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "I thought about it," she said. "But I didn't want to insult you. You deserved better than more lies." I almost laughed. "Now you care about insulting me?" That stung her. I could see it. But I didn't care. "Why him?" I asked. "Why Jordan?" She looked away. "I don't know. He made me feel powerful. Important. Like I mattered. I thought I did that." "You did," she said. "But it was different. With you I was grounded. With him, I felt like I was flying." "So you chose the high," I said. "You chose the thing that made you feel big, even if it meant shrinking me in the process." "I didn't mean to shrink you," she said softly. "But you did," I replied. She nodded. Neither of us spoke for a while. The weight of everything hung between us like a curtain that couldn't be pulled back. "I'm moving out," she said finally. I didn't want to leave without telling you face to face." "You already left," I said. She didn't argue, just nodded again and stood up. She walked to the door, then turned. "I'm sorry," she said. Truly. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I saw someone I didn't recognize. "I know," I said, "but that doesn't fix it." She didn't expect it to. She opened the door and paused once more. I thought she might say something else. Something last minute. But she didn't. She just walked out. And this time, she didn't leave a note. I didn't go to the bedroom that night. Couldn't. Not with the bed still made the way she used to leave it. One pillow slightly higher than the other, her side of the comforter folded back just enough to show the sheets. I sat on the couch, a blanket around my shoulders like armor. The apartment was cold, but not from the temperature. It was the kind of cold that came after truth, after exposure, after trust had been dragged out into the open and left to die under fluorescent lights. She didn't text, didn't call. The last thing I saw of her was the back of her head as she walked out, her bag bumping against her hip, her sweater slipping off one shoulder. She looked small as she left, smaller than I'd ever seen her. I think some part of me expected more. Some final plea. One last, desperate reach to make it all go away. But Haley wasn't built that way. She didn't believe in cleanup. She believed in distance, quiet, disappearance. In the morning, I woke up to my alarm, an unnecessary formality at that point. I hadn't really slept, just drifted in and out, one eye always on the ceiling, like it might give me answers if I stared hard enough. I stood in the kitchen with a cup of black coffee, staring at the clock, listening to the tick of something I couldn't name. That's when she came back. Not in a dramatic, door-slamming kind of way. She just opened the door, stepped inside, and shut it behind her like nothing had changed. Her hair was tied back. No makeup. Same overnight bag from the night before. Her eyes were red, and I could see she hadn't slept either. "Hey," she said, barely above a whisper. I didn't respond, just nodded slightly. "I came for the test," she said. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I nodded again. The DNA test had been my idea, but she didn't fight me on it. There was no resistance, no attempt to spin it. She didn't say, "We don't need that," or "You're being paranoid." She just said, "Okay." That was the part that hurt the most, that she already knew what the result would be, and didn't bother pretending otherwise. We went to the clinic together. We didn't speak in the car. Just sat there, surrounded by the low hum of the engine and the occasional shuffle of gear changes. It was the first time we'd shared space since the night of the video, and it felt like sitting next to someone you used to know from school. A familiar face worn down by time and distance. At the clinic, the nurse was polite, professional, didn't ask questions. They took a sample from me first, then Haley. I watched her as she sat in the chair, jaw tight, hands in her lap. She didn't flinch when the swab touched her mouth. Afterward, we stood outside in the parking lot under a gray sky. She hugged her arms around herself, like she couldn't get warm. "They said 4 days, she murmured. I nodded. Then she asked the only real question of the day. "What happens if it's not yours?" I looked at her, really looked. "If," she closed her eyes. "Right?" And that was that. She moved into the guest room that night. No big announcement, just unpacked her bag quietly and shut the door. I stayed on the couch. Neither of us touched the master bedroom. It became a silent arrangement, unspoken but absolute. The apartment turned into a neutral zone, like some invisible treaty had been drawn through the middle of the hallway. She cooked sometimes. So did I. We didn't share meals. If we crossed paths in the kitchen, we gave each other a nod, maybe a quiet, "Hey," but nothing more. The television stayed off. The lights stayed dim. The laughter that used to fill these walls. The dumb inside jokes, the movie quotes, the shared glances across a room. They were gone. Replaced by the kind of silence that felt almost deliberate. Like we both knew any sound might break whatever thin thread kept the peace. Once, I found one of her earrings on the bathroom sink. Just one. Silver. The kind she used to wear on weekdays. I held it in my palm for a few seconds. Felt like something sacred. Then I dropped it into a bowl on the hallway table and walked away. Another night, I heard her crying through the wall. I didn't go to her. Not because I didn't want to, because I didn't trust myself to stay quiet if I did. By the third day, the waiting started to gnaw at me. Every sound from my phone made my heart stutter. Every email notification felt like it might be the one. On the fourth day, the result came in. I opened the email alone. Sitting on the floor next to the coffee table, my laptop warm on my legs. Probability of paternity, 0. 0%. That was it. No fluff, no apology, just cold science in Arial font. I sat there for a long time, not moving, not thinking, not surprised. Eventually, I stood up and walked to the guest room. I knocked once. She opened the door. Our eyes met. I didn't speak, just held out my phone. She looked down, read the screen, then nodded. There was no breakdown, no dramatic collapse, just acceptance. Like she'd finally been handed the verdict she already knew was coming. She sat back on the bed. I turned and walked away. I didn't cry. I wanted to, but it felt pointless. That night, I went to the master bedroom for the first time in days. Stripped the bed. Tossed the sheets into the laundry. Threw out the pillow she used to sleep on. Something about it felt necessary. Not angry, just final. She didn't ask to come back into that room. And I wouldn't have said yes if she had. The next morning, the apartment felt colder than usual. I poured myself coffee and stood by the window, watching traffic drift past like I was observing a world I no longer belonged to. She walked in quietly, grabbed a granola bar, and paused at the fridge. "I'll start packing my things," she said. I didn't turn around. "Okay." She lingered for a second, maybe waiting for me to say more. Maybe hoping I'd change my mind. But I didn't, because there was nothing left to change. She left the kitchen. I heard her open the closet in the guest room. The sound of boxes being assembled. The low thud of drawers sliding shut. It went on like that for days. A slow exodus. Not dramatic. Not bitter. Just mechanical. Once, I walked into the hallway and found her sitting cross-legged, sorting through old photographs. She didn't hide them, didn't try to justify anything. She just looked up and said, "Do you want any of these?" I shook my head. "No." She nodded and slid them into a box. I watched her tape it shut. That moment was the closest thing we had to a goodbye. No arguments, no fireworks, just a final act in a story that had already ended. By the end of the week, her things were mostly gone. The apartment echoed. She handed me a key. One of the spares. The one I'd given her when we first moved in. "I'll be staying at my sister's for a while," she said. I nodded. We stood there in the hallway, surrounded by bare shelves and empty picture hooks. She looked like she wanted to say something else. But in the end, she didn't. She just turned and walked out the door. And this time, I didn't watch her leave. After she left, the apartment felt like an abandoned stage. Furniture still in place, but the story over. I boxed up what she left behind. Old photos, stray earrings, a sweater that still carried her perfume. I dropped the box at her sister's without a word. There was no anger, no ceremony, just silence and absence. I didn't miss her. I missed who she used to be, or maybe who I used to believe she was. But now, the emptiness felt honest. At least it didn't lie. The silence grew louder after she was gone. No texts. No apologies. Not even a forgotten item to give her an excuse to come back. I walked the rooms like a tourist in my own life, tracing outlines of what used to be ours. On the mirror, I found one last note in her handwriting. "Don't forget your umbrella." I crumpled it and tossed it away. That part of my life was over. No more pretending. No more waiting. Only truth. Only stillness. And finally, peace.